All right, hi. So in this video, we'll talk about approximate change. All right. So this is exercise 13E of your book, and I'm sorry about this mess. This is actually the second time I'm recording the lecture. The first time I had recorded it, and then the recording got deleted completely. So this was my work through the first recording. So I don't want to work through the whole thing again. So I'm just gonna leave it as it is. I'm just gonna deliver the lecture all over again. Anyway, so this is exercise 13E of your ad math book. All right, this deals with approximate change. Now the idea here is this formula. This formula is the essential formula here. It says delta y divided by delta x is equals to the value of dy by dx. All right. Now you have to understand what the formula actually means. All right, so listen to this carefully. The triangle y, the delta y, means the change in the value of y. Okay, now the delta x means the change in the value of x. Okay, but the dy by dx here only means the value of dy by dx. It basically means the value of the differentiation, the number you get when you plug in the x value in dy by dx. Okay, so this is the connecting formula. It says, look, the ratio of the y change and the x change is the same as the value of the radius. Sorry, is the same as the value of the dy by dx. Okay, that is the only thing you have to understand to work through this uh, exercise. Okay, so usually these changes, right? Usually the change in this x value is very small, because for very large values, we really don't resort to this formula. Okay. For large values, we usually find the old value of y and then the new value of y and then subtract them. But for very small values, so ওইগুলো তোমার বোঝা লাগবে না, but for small values of x and y changes, we use this formula. So let me just give you an example of how this formula is being used in a situation. So for example, I ask you to find out what is the change in the area of a circle when the radius changes from 3 centimeters to 3.001 centimeters. Okay, now if you get the idea here, you can see how the radius is changing. It is increasing, and as a result, you can obviously realize that the area is also going to increase but change. All right, how much is it going to change? That is the question, and that is where we resort to differentiation. All right, instead of any other methods which may be dealing with very small numbers, a very large number of decimal places and all that clumsy effort, we can resort to this formula. All right, now let's see what is given to us. We have an old radius given to us, we have a new radius given to us. That way we can find that there's a change in the radius. So in this problem, the change in x, the triangle x, is essentially our triangle r, right? So what the first thing you want to do is figure out what is being changed. The radius is changing, and it changed from 3 to 3.001. So how do we find the change? It's always the new value minus the old value. So that gives me the change in the radius. ওটা বের করে রাখলাম. Now obviously you should also have an idea of the area of the circle, because that is the connecting equation here. আমাদেরকে কোনো equation কিন্তু দিয়ে দেন, right? So we're not given an equation. So using our knowledge, we have to find that equation. We have to write that equation. So in this case, the equation relates to the area and radius of a circle, and we know this formula from math D, that the area is equals to pi r squared. Okay, so the first step is to realize that you have a change in the radius. All right, the second step is to understand which equation to use. Okay, now the third step is to write down the formula you're going to use. So write down this formula. change in y by changing in x equals to dy by dx, except write it down for your problem. In this case, we don't have x's and y's, but we have the change in the area which is dependent on the change in the radius is equals to, obviously the equation is a is equals to pi r square. So obviously the best thing we can find is dA by dr. এখানে যদি y equals to something x থাকতো আমরা dy by dx করতাম। এখন এখানে a in term a is in terms of r আছে, so আমরা dA by dr করব। যদি দরকার হইতো you might have had to change it the other way around, ঠিক আছে? যদি দরকার হতো, if you needed to do that, but in this case you didn't have to do that because clearly it's the r changing causing the a to change. Okay, so this is the formula, in the red box that you need to fill up. And remember, our goal is to find the change in the area, triangle A. So কি লাগবে? We need the triangle R. We have the triangle R ready. We need to find the value of the differentiation dA by dr, so that we can, after cross multiplying, we can make triangle A the subject. So triangle A subject করলে আমরা ওটার value which is asked in the question আমরা বের করতে পারবো dA by dr equals to it times the the change in radius. So change in radius we already have. We now need to do the differentiation. So how do we do the differentiation? Well, we look at the equation. It's obviously a is equals to something r, so dA by dr করব। Using your knowledge of differentiation, you can clearly see that it's 2 pi r, 2 comes forward, the power of r decreases by 1, and this is your differentiation. Now here's the interesting part. We need a value for the differentiation. This is an expression for dA, for the differentiation. 2 pi r is an expression for dA by dr, but we need a number, we need a value for dA by dr. So you need to plug in a radius, and the common question is, we have two values of radius, what do we plug in? We always plug in the old radius, guys. Remember, in this formula, whenever you'll have to plug in an x value or an r value or any such value, we always plug in the old value before the change. Okay, so that is the idea here. So ultimately that gives me x 6 pi. All right, so you're going to put that. So this is our value of dA by dr that was missing, right? So we plug it in here, so the formula becomes 6 pi multiplied by the change in radius we just found here, and that gives me, if you put it in your calculator, 0.0110188 centimeters square, a very small change. Okay, so a few things to remember. You need to design the formula like this based on the change formula. All right, and you need to see what are changing, right? In this case, the radius is changing. Find out the change in radius, find out the value of the differentiation by using the old value of the radius, and put it in the formula. So hopefully that clarifies how you go about and use this particular formula. Okay, so again, in summary, this is the change in y which results from a change in x, which the value of which is equals to the value of the differentiation. So obviously you need an equation to differentiate, which might be given in the question, which might not be directly given in the question, just like in this particular example. Now changes may also be negative. Okay, for example, if the old value of radius is 4.05 and the new one is 4 centimeters, obviously the change is going to be the new one minus the old one, which is a negative change. So area যদি negative, sorry, যদি radius যদি negative হয়, you put it in here, and obviously area to negative হবে. And you can think of it logically. If your radius is decreasing, obviously the area is going to decrease, right? So don't freak out if Don't freak out if you get negative answers if you're confident that the other steps are correct, because negative answers হইতেই পারে, একটা ভ্যারিয়েবল কমলে আরেকটা ভ্যারিয়েবল কমতেও পারে, একটা ভ্যারিয়েবল কমলে আরেকটা ভ্যারিয়েবল বাড়তেও পারে, ঠিক আছে? So এইগুলা, you need to be aware of these things. But in essence, this is the formula you need to play with. Sometimes they will give you questions about volume, right? তখন তোমার equationটা should be the change in volume by change in radius. Let's say we're talking about the volume of a sphere, 4 by 3 pi r cube, right? So the change in volume by change in radius is equals to dv by dr. তখন এটাকে differentiate করতে হবে, তখন যদি চেঞ্জ ইন ভলিউম বের করে এইটাকে সাবজেক্ট করতে হবে, ঠিক আছে? সামটাইমস they'll give you some equation, ঠিক আছে? সো ফর এক্সাম্পল ওরা যদি বলে দেয় z is equals to um 6 pi I don't know x 6 by root x, ঠিক আছে? তখন obviously the formula you have to draw is, look, there is going to be a change in z due to a change in x, and obviously I can figure this out using the dz by dx, ঠিক আছে? So you need, and then depending on the question এটাকেও সাবজেক্ট করতে হতে পারে, এটাকেও সাবজেক্ট করতে হতে পারে, differentiation obviously করতে হবে, ঠিক আছে? And you obviously use old values if you want to find the value of the differentiation. X যদি change হয় from, let's say, 5 centimeters to 5.005, this is the old value of x use করবা, ঠিক আছে? তারপরে চেঞ্জেস বের করতে পারবা। সো এইগুলো মাথায় রাখতে হবে, you need to be able to look at the question, see what variables are changing, see what you can differentiate with respect to what, and design these formulas, যেরকম এটা করছি আমি, এটা করছি আমি, হ্যাঁ? Since the equation is z in terms of x, it's always z by x, dz by dx. Just like y equals to x squared থাকলে, since it's y in terms of x, আমরা dy by dx করি, ঠিক আছে? সো যেটা বাইরে থাকবে ওটা উপরে থাকে, সো ওইগুলা মাথায় রাখবা, এইগুলা মাথায় রেখে তোমার হচ্ছে গিয়ে you need to go ahead and use this particular formula. This is the general formula, and এই যে এইগুলা a r v r z x এগুলো হচ্ছে the modified formula depending on the question, ঠিক আছে? So hopefully you got the basic idea of this approximate change. Now you can move on to exercise 13e of your book, Li Peng Yi, and go ahead and attempt these questions. These questions should be easy for you. The questions in the middle and the rest of the questions have questions about percentage changes in them. We will talk about percentage change in the next class. But for your homework, make sure you complete these. Thank you very much.